So let's make the assumption that Draymond Green comes back next year. I think it's most likely, it's high 90th percentile that the Warriors and Draymond Green, by hook or by crook, find a way to get done. He names his price. They pay Draymond. He's a Golden State Warrior. Do you think that the Warriors coming back next year, Steph, Clay, Dre, Wiggins, Looney, Paul, GP2, and all the rest, do you think that that team is good enough to be a contender to maybe win the Western Conference and go to the NBA Finals and be champs again?
Right now, no. Right now, no. I think it as currently constituted, no. I think there's one more move that needs to be made in addition to having to hit on your veteran minimum players. The veteran minimums are not just, hey, go sign some veteran minimums and you're good. Like, your veteran minimums have to hit and be able to play.
Right.
And have a role. Like, you're counting on your veteran minimum players almost to raise you a tier or a half a tier, if that makes sense. Like, it's so you.
And they've done that with Otto Porter Jr., I think was that kind of player.
They've done it in different ways. Like, Gary Payton was somebody that 2 years ago you wouldn't have thought could have made any impact. Porter wouldn't have, and they all just were perfect. Like, both of them were perfect, seamless fits. They need that in addition to Chris Paul works. Draymond comes back. Clay is better and more consistent than he was last year.
Kuminga takes a step.
Doesn't have to be a super star.
Moody's
doesn't have to be a
rotational.
star. But Kuminga can actually play in the playoffs. Like, that kind of thing.
And Moody becomes a 20-minute-a-night legit
Moody
backup.
plays in the regular season like he does in the playoffs, which he doesn't do, which is why he doesn't play in the regular season. So, all of those things have to happen, and you have to hit on one of your minimums, which I think is a big. I think one of your minimums is just a big that you can throw out there, won't play all the time, like an Alex Len type, right? Like, but a big body that you can put up there toe-to-toe against some other big. The other is, I think, a stretch 4 type of a player, a stretch 4 that can shoot it from the outside, kind of like Otto Porter was. Otto Porter was basically a stretch 4. And then the other one, I think, is a wing defender, another 6'8" body that can provide some semblance of insurance policy for Moody and Kuminga if Moody and Kuminga are unplayable. And so, or don't make that jump. So to me, and I think you could also make a case they might need another ball handler because Chris Paul and Steph are going to project to miss some time. So if who's the third ball handler on the roster if one of those guys? So that maybe that's Ty Jerome if he ends up coming back as your third point guard kind of a thing. But whoever that guy is, I think you have to factor into this mix. Maybe at the expense of having that wing if you go big, stretch 4, and another, and you skip that secondary defensive-minded wing. You need a third ball handler who's basically your second ball handler because Steph and Chris Paul are going to be missing so much time.
Well, he's really your fourth ball handler because Draymond Green is your primary ball handler.
Guard ball handler.
To your point,
is probably a better way of saying it.
Veteran minimum prop sheet coming JD's way here at 420. I got some prop sheet questions, yes or no. You versus Kruger is the bit. But before we go back to the phones and people want to weigh in on just how this team will look going into next year, Ryan Russillo yesterday from the Ryan Russillo podcast, part of the Ringer Network, he answered the question that I asked JD. Are the Warriors still competitors? Are they still in the mix next year to win a chip?
The job of Mike Dunleavy or Myers before him or any of the 30 GMs in the league, like, your job is to have a chance, okay? And I know that seems like I'm being a little too easy on the grading of it and how hard the job is, but really, like, even Phoenix, I may not love all of it, but going into next year they have a chance. And that Golden State group is going to have a chance. And, for Denver to go on this run, it was really impressive, the playoffs. They figured out some stuff defensively. I guess I feel like I'm by myself on this one because they were so impressive during the playoffs, but, it's still a 50-win team. They didn't win on the road. Their defense was average during the regular season, and I'm like, wait, now I'm supposed to expect that they're just going to run off like 3 or 4 titles? Like, that doesn't really happen in this league. Like, you have to be one of the all-time great teams. And I think it was also a really weird year in the West. and you can go through it, whether it's the Clippers' problems, Phoenix trying to figure it out on the fly too late, Durant getting hurt as soon as he got there, so they didn't really feel like they had anything rolling. They didn't know their rotations. The Lakers kind of reinvented themselves on the fly. Sacramento ends up being a 2 seed. You've got Memphis and all the nonsense there. So when you run through the West, like Denver was a survivor, and they were the only stable thing. I mean, Sacramento was pretty stable, but it felt too new. We knew the defense wasn't good enough. So I'm not telling you hey, right now at the end of June, they're my pick to win the West, but they have a real chance. And at this point, I think that's all you can ask of a front office.
Ryan Russillo from yesterday's program from The Ringer. What do you think of his takeaway in terms of it was a weird West and hard to repeat and all of the other teams with question marks in the Western Conference?
I think it illustrates that there is a path for the Warriors if they continue to improve, and if the West is weird like it was last year, it may very well be. I think Denver now becomes the team at the top of the mountain. They have championship pedigree as the defending champion.
Right, I love that pedigree.
We'll see what happens there. Sacramento's obviously trying to change their mix. Memphis is going to have to deal with not having John Morant. I think Phoenix projects to be right there at the top. I think the Lakers are going to be a better version. We're going to get more what they were at the back end in the playoffs for a full season than what they were a team that had no shot for 2/3 of the year and then had a decent shot for a third of the year plus the playoffs. So I feel like the West is going to be a little bit more stable and predictable with at least 4 or 5 teams that you think have a shot.
And the Warriors maybe become more of an unpredictable team, but with a great upside if they get health and step up performances from certain players.
If anything, I think you could, in hindsight, go back and look at this past Warriors season and say, damn it, they had more action this past year than maybe met the eye.
Yeah.
If they had one more player here or there.
One or two.
One more contributing.
I talked to Larry yesterday about this, and they just ran out of bodies.
They did. And so that's where it also comes down when we start talking veteran minimum players.
Yeah.
You got to hit because you need playable bodies. So
exactly.
These guys can't be useless. These guys can't be, all 3 of them aren't
Andre
playing.
Iguodala, for example.
Cannot be. It cannot be Andre Iguodala. No.
888-957-9570. JD's in for Mark Willard. We'll get his thoughts on what veteran minimum targets he's got his eye on. Free agency starts now, 22 hours and 54 minutes. We know that Chris Paul is a Golden State Warrior. Once the league year starts, the trade is finalized. Jim and Martinez wants to talk about his impact. What's going on, Jim?
Hey, guys. Great show. My head is spinning with all the numbers and everything and all the calculations. And, I mean, it literally, I'm sitting in a parking lot in Lafayette waiting for my kid. She just flew in from Ann Arbor, and I'm picking her up. And I'm sitting here, and it's been at the back of my mind. And now, just bear with me for a minute. Now, think about it. The Warriors got their team together last season at the playoffs, and they won the championship. This season, Wiggins was out for months. Everything was just really weird with Poole and Draymond and everything. But you're paying Draymond because of his brain. That guy is a basketball genius. You got Klay Thompson, who's still coming back now. You got Steph Curry now. Instead of Jordan Poole, who's a flash, but you think of how he just fell off a cliff in February, and I've never seen anything like that. But now listen to this. The Warriors dominated the league with their starters by far. It's not even close. Everybody's kind of forgetting that. But when the starters that the Warriors have right now, including Denver and everybody else, they blew everybody off, all right? Now Wiggins hopefully is back, and everybody's going to be healthy. But now you got Chris Paul with the second unit that was just absolutely horrible. That's where the problem was. And, you guys have been nailing it.
Thanks, Jim.
Bodies. We need to get in there and play. But I think there might be one more in this group. The money's just mind-boggling. But when you think about what the Dubs starters did against the league, and you can get a guy like Chris Paul, public enemy number 1 around here, to go in and stabilize and maybe get something, maybe even out of that big rookie and the other kid from Santa Clara and Kuminga. I love Moses Moody. he plays, when he's on, he's like a 6-year guy. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I think this thing's viable, man. I'm telling you.
I appreciate it, Jim, and appreciate the call. Enjoy Lafayette. The Roundup is a nice spot in case you have some extra time right there on Mount Diablo Boulevard. The thing about best starting lineup, JD, missed me with that stat, and I know that the plus-minus or the statistics of when that starting lineup, when that 5-man group was on the floor, they were the best 5-man unit in basketball. Well, they were until they weren't. And also, that 5-man unit plays about 13 minutes together over the course of a 48-minute game.
Yeah, it did not lead the Warriors to a lot of regular season wins. Like if they're playing 20, 25 minutes a game together and they're, equating to a victory level that would, be in line with the plus minus level and all of that. It's a nice start is what it is. Like it is nice to have a stable group, but you got to build this thing to where, you can say Chris Paul, and it's been said a lot, and I've said it, and everybody said, Chris Paul is going to lead the second unit. You still need somebody that can score in the second unit. And
Brandon Podjemski.
And now they don't have really that. Like, Chris Paul's not a scorer. Like, he can make buckets for others, but I still look at this roster, and as you put it out on a depth chart, to me, it's still, even with Chris Paul as the backup point guard, if that's how you want to put it, you're still a little too young. And
unproven in terms of offense, yeah.
Yeah, so how do you gotta, it's an unfinished product.
You're looking for somebody to pick up the slack from Poole's 20 points a night. I'm really looking for somebody to pick up his 30 minutes a night because Chris Paul's going to get you 10 of those 20. I think his mid-range game is still on point. Chris Paul can still get to the foul line. He can still create on his own enough to where he's going to be a double-digit scorer. You need Kuminga to take a step up offensively. You need Moody to be playable and knock down the three. And I do think Brandon Podjemski, the more we hear from experts about where his game is, his ability to just shoot the basketball, I think he can be impactful off the bench offensively. I think the defensive side of the ball is going to take him a while to get up to par in the NBA, but he is a guy I think who can come in and give you offense.
It just can't take so long for him to figure out the defense that you can't put him on the court for his offense. Otherwise, why'd you pick him? Because you didn't pick him for 2025, 26. You picked him for 2023, 24.
Absolutely, and Draymond Green has not shown a great amount of patience when it comes to defensive lapses among his teammates. See such players as James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Jordan Poole, et al.